and CEO of Scrum Systems Incorporated, and the founder of the Midwest Manufacturing Leaders. So for those of you who don't know the history, about 7 years ago, we started the Midwest Manufacturing Leaders online on LinkedIn. We're at about 7,900 members online right now, so just approaching that 8,000 member mark, which puts us in the top 1% of all LinkedIn groups, which is kind of fun to see. Next meeting, which is, well, we've got a meeting in October, and our next meeting here in November will actually be our 4-year anniversary of these events. So thanks to all of you for helping make that possible. So none of this would be possible without our sponsors. So as I call out your company name, if you could raise your hand, I'd appreciate it. So Mike, I see you back with Lapata Flegal in the back corner. How you doing, bud? Parkside, where's Parkside? In the room? Parkside in the house? Yeah, all the way back. Thank you very much for being here. Atomic Revenue, I know Steph was here, and Glenn, and we have Ryan on the panel. Black Twig, Tom, in the back there, thank you. Polsinelli, Paul, I saw you around here somewhere. Paul Klug, maybe I didn't see Paul around. Polsinelli, CMA, there's Jay in the middle of the room, great, thank you. And then the guys from Swift, we got Jason and Chad here. So thank you for all of our sponsors. There is a table in the back of the room. It does have some sponsor information. It also has some free books that were courtesy of Stark & Associates. So there's some books on sale specific to manufacturing. So if you want to grab one of those books on your way out, they are free for the taking. So we've got a great panel today. I'm going to kind of run through the introductions. We'll finish up with Susie Andrews from Stark & Associates, and we'll get the whole thing kicked off. So Ryan Bretsch. Ryan is the Chief Operating Officer for Atomic Revenue. Atomic Revenue focuses on the unique discipline of end-to-end revenue operations with emphasis on aligning the marketing, sales, and customer operations to drive more predictable, profitable revenue. Ryan provides companies with integrated, well-aligned insights for increasing lead generation, sales conversion, and customer success capability, as well as providing accurate scenario-based financial operation modeling to understand how profit actually occurs in the business. With 15 plus years of sales management and sales operation experience, Ryan has successfully led sales groups consisting of 50 plus salespeople to #1 performance in both sales and customer satisfaction outcomes. If we could welcome Ryan, please. And Mark Metz. Mark is the president and founder of Optimus Sales Group in St. Louis, Missouri. Utilizing the proven sales acceleration platform, Optimus Sales Group provides business owners customized and sustainable sales strategies and processes to drive growth in top-line revenues and profitability. Mark has over 30 years of experience managing sales teams at all sizes of companies across diverse industries. Companies he has worked with range from small 5-man firms to large multi-billion-dollar global enterprises. If we could welcome Mark, please. Next, we have Brad Baker. Brad Baker assists privately held businesses grow their company dramatically. Currently, he is the Executive Vice President of Husky Corporation, a manufacturer of petroleum dispensing equipment, liquid level tank gauges, and automotive aftermarket components. Husky has grown over 400% during his tenure, utilizing the three-pronged approach of international expansion, new product development, and strategic partnerships and acquisitions. Brad's undergraduate degree was from the University of Kansas, and his graduate degree was from Washington University in St. Louis. If we can welcome Brad, please. And our final panelist is Carla Cheney. Carla is the site general manager of MEMC, a global wafer company in St. Peters, Missouri. MEMC produces specialty silicon wafers for use in the semiconductor industry. Carla joined MEMC in 1995, serving in various positions, starting as process engineer to applications and sales, marketing, and finally operations management. She holds an MS in chemical engineering from Washington University in St. Louis, as well as a BS in chemical engineering from Missouri University of Science and Technology. If we could welcome Carla, please. And then our host for today is Susie Andrews. Susie Andrews, President and CEO, brings over 30 years of sales, management, and leadership experience to her clients at St. Louis-based Sandler training licensee Stark & Associates. Susie spent 11 years as an associate with Stark, and in May of 2014, she realized her dream to own the business. She works with presidents, CEOs, and business owners, assisting them with the overall development and improvement of their sales organizations, utilizing her personal experience and the best practice tools and standard processes. If we could welcome Susie, please. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Tom. Good morning. I'm excited about being here with you all today. Really a great group of people. The topic is an interesting one. Sales operations and growing your business in a manufacturing space. You know, we often think about sales and we don't often associate the word operations with sales. So I want you to kind of think of sales today as it's an overall function in how to grow your business. The panelists that are here have experience in all different aspects of that, and we really want to kind of dig into all of those areas. The changes that we're seeing in the landscape in manufacturing and in sales in general are pretty significant. Probably the primary piece of change that we're seeing is that sales doesn't happen the way it used to happen. If you look at the statistics of what percentage of time is made in the decision from a decision maker's perspective before they even engage with a salesperson, it's about 60% of the decision is made before they've even had a conversation with a salesperson. So it's a big, significant change from everybody's perspective. So when you think about what you're going to do today moving forward, think about that. Think about how much influence do I have on the sale, and what are the things I need to be thinking about prior to that engagement with that customer. So a question I think that's pretty significant for overall session is, how will your company overcome both the new sales challenges and the old sales challenges and position yourself for significant growth moving forward? So we put together a list of questions, but I really would like to engage the audience today and not necessarily use our list. So I'm going to start out with a specific question that I'm going to ask both manufacturers to get started, and it's really related to what they've done to grow the business. But then I really want to kind of point to the audience and ask you guys to jump in and participate. If you have a question, raise your hand, and if you can stand up. We only have one mic, so if I have a bunch of roving mics, that'd be great. So if you would just speak loudly, project your question, and let us know if there's somebody specific on the panel that you'd like to answer the question. All right, so to get started, the first question really is kind of simple. When evaluating growth in your business and in sales, how do you determine where to start? Brad?
We always start with a plan. Trying to think about sales and where we want to grow. I always think of the low-hanging fruit. Super simple. But for us, we had two real issues. The first was letting everybody know, as Susie mentioned, letting everybody know about our products. So we've spent a ton of time and effort on converting our old school brochures and pamphlets and manuals to be electronic. Keeping those up to date every single day. So that has been a huge effort for us, ongoing all the time. As Susie mentioned, people know before we walk in all about our products, and they're asking questions about them as opposed to us pitching the product. And then it really turns into figuring out what the customer wants. So in the course of that conversation, it's been, what does the customer need, as opposed to here's what our product does. So putting together a plan turned in from how do we get the word out through the marketing efforts, internet, whatever, Twitter, the whole social bit, and then how do we get our team organized and there we sell through manufacturers' reps. So we had to get our internal team organized to think about, all right, we want to train, how are we going to train these manufacturers' reps? So it's pretty much 6 guys internally, about 100 guys externally. So how do we get those external guys working and moving along in the same direction? Especially guys, think about reps that got 10, 15, 20 different lines. How do we get a share of their time? So we've spent an awful lot of time going to our end users, helping pull the product through, get the product specified, and then that helps focus our reps, it helps focus our internal guys, and it helps focus our marketing efforts as well. So focusing on the end user, what do they need, what are their specific topics. Husky makes the gas nozzle, you fill your car up with gas. So we're going to a place like Quick Trip, understanding what Quick Trip's specific needs are, understanding what their geographic areas are that need to be covered, and then aligning all of our reps who cover those areas with the tools that they need to get through that. So.
Perfect.
So our focus is very customer-centric. We have a limited number of customers. We aren't out there developing new customers. The semiconductor industry is very capital intensive, so there aren't new customers coming into the mix. So we focus on long-term relationships with the customers to understand their needs, their long-term roadmaps, so that we can align our new product developments to be ready when they're ready. That's the biggest thing for us, and actually one of our biggest problems is staying aligned with the customer as we're going forward, moving along with their developments and their strategic plans. But one key understanding in the overall growth of sales in our business is understanding the total available market from our customers, the TAM, what is really out there to be had, and then making strategic plans to go grab certain pieces of the business. And that falls back to marketing and sales operations processes, because that's where all the data comes in. We decide who we want to partner with, who gives us the most profitability at our site. So I think for a long time, my industry has been customer focused in semiconductors because it's very specific. It's ever-changing needs, and we have to continue to move with them if we want to stay in the business.
Perfect, thank you. Just to summarize a little bit, I don't know if you guys sort of got the feeling that the focus here from both of these folks was customer focus. And it's not always the way we think. We work with a lot of manufacturers. I know all of us here have a pretty good understanding of the manufacturing environment, and we tend to focus on the products. So, question for everybody on the panel, I think, that relates to how we kick this off is, how do you shift from a product-centric sales strategy and growth strategy to a customer-centric growth strategy?
Good morning. One of the things that I've done over the years, back in the day, the feature benefit, all that. One of the things that we focus on during our engagements, making sure you understand the customer's needs, the customer's pains. Really, it boils down to that. You focus on, you have to understand what your product can do, but you have to put that in context of what does the customer need and how does it make their life better. That's really what it boils down to. Does it make them more efficient? Does it help them sleep at night? There's so many different levels of this, but you really have to do a deep dive and arm your salespeople with the right tools to understand the problems and the pains they solve for the customer. And it really has to shift to that customer focus. It's been around for a long time, but it's amazing how many companies still don't do that. And you look at their brochures, and it's about me, not about what I do or what our product can do for the customer. And that is the number one thing that I run into that I think needs to happen and we need to focus on.
Yeah, I guess this is maybe how I would look at it. Is a lot of the things that we see with companies is that they're focused on a product service driven sales model, which is basically, you're looking at the sales process in terms of sales stages. And I think the difference in terms of what I observe is, again, what Mark said, is that the companies go into it at this point of the sales cycle, the introduction. What is it that we want to be telling them? And then when we go to discovery, what questions do we want to ask them so that we can get the information that we need? And then the presentation, how are we going to make the presentation so that we can show off our history, the buzz about how good we are, the features, the benefits. And it just continues to go, up and down the line throughout the entire sales process. Whereas when you're looking at it from a customer perspective, you're simply looking at it from at each point of the sales stage, what is it that the customer requires to be able to effectively engage with you?
Any other comments, Dan? Okay, that's good.
So I think the thing that has been a real insight for us going from product to customer was actually talking to the customer. So I mentioned we sell with reps, we also sell through distribution. So every distributor thinks that they own the customer, that the customer is theirs. In our particular case, when we were going to go talk to, we never had an opportunity really to talk to the customer. The customer being somebody like Quick Trip or Circle K. We put a big, huge effort on talking to Circle K, talking to Quick Trip, talking to those end users that are actually using our products, the people who are actually at the end of the value stream. And those people have a way different interest in our product than a distributor. A distributor doesn't really care. They want to sell something to Circle K. They don't care what they sell necessarily. Our product versus the competition. So getting the end user, as we call them, to be able to spec the product for us on our behalf and say we only want to use Husky products has been a huge problem. I guess being able to get aligned with them, because it ultimately gets that distributor to sell our product rather than just a product. So that helping pull through the system has been a big, huge thing. So, what was the thing that got us there was talking to the customer as opposed to talking.
Thank you. And you think about it, how well are you, or how good a job are you doing at looking at all of the things that they're talking about in terms of understanding what your customer is? Do you have a sales process? Do you have a sales playbook? Those are the things that help you drive down into the customer side. So I'm going to put it out to the audience and maybe ask you guys to pose some questions. Oh.
Hi, Susan.
How are you?
Want to get a microphone?
Just have one, so.
I'll talk loud. Something I'm personally curious about, this is really less of a business question than a personal curiosity, which is, Susie talks about growth, and we've used that G word a lot here, and I'm looking at the title of the presentation. If you had a choice, and you have to choose, you can't say both, I know everybody's going to say both, between a sustainable sales model, where we're not subject to ups and downs, maybe due to the economy or weather, or I'm not sure why, or growth. Sustainable sales model, maybe, again, I don't want to put too many metrics around it, or a fast-growing sales model, and including the consultants and the people that are producers. I'm interested in what you advise and what you prefer, and that would be of great interest to me. Not both.
No, I won't say growth. I'm going to say sustainable. For the simple reason is, this, and I think everybody with an operations background will appreciate this, is if you have stable, sustainable, predictable revenue, that means you can plan your operations around that. That means you can plan, your cost structure around that. That means you can pretty much plan your business around that. But if you have just wild, but unpredictable growth, then that is a whole bunch of planning challenges from the operations end that you're now left to contend. And then you also have to figure out how do you even operationalize those sales.
So I agree with those comments, but I would take it a little bit further and say it would be cautious growth. So I love to be comfortable in the realm of sustainability, but I want to grow the business for my company and for everyone that works there. But we have to be cautious about market volatility and how are we going to ensure that we're filling the business later. Like it's And then also, we can't fill 100% of the volume. It's not a smart thing to fill 100% of the volume. Then you have no room for swings, for spot orders, et cetera, where you can really improve your profitability on those sales. But to reserve some of those for future changes and for samples that you want to make, like we have a long sales cycle, a long qual cycle with the customer. So when we create a sample, it's 12 to 18 months before we get the sale. So we have to be looking ahead and getting samples out now for later revenue. So it's really a long-term approach to growth. It's definitely not short and quick, but that's the cautious approach.
Well, I don't think that there's, I think that our mentality anyway is we're going to grow. Like we have to grow. And it really doesn't matter, you talked about weather or the economy or whatever, competition. That doesn't, who cares, right? That doesn't matter to us. We still have to eat every day. There's like a whole bunch of people that are there. So growing our business is a requirement as opposed to just a nice to have. And so we think about it like that, okay, we're going to grow every year. We're going to, our targets are high. We have to do two things. The first is keep every customer that we have. We call it customer loyalty. We want all of our customers to come back. We don't want to give them another opportunity through any of our touch points to go think about somebody else, product quality or timeliness or working with our engineers or whatever. So keeping our existing customers is paramount because you can't grow if we're not keeping our existing customers. And then on top of that becomes every opportunity to grow. And sometimes we might have a manufacturing issue. So we have to figure out if we're going to have a manufacturing issue sometimes, and we know we are, if that's delivery or service or functionality, what are we going to offset that with on another part of our business? And so we've created some of those things that kind of offset. We've established some partnerships, some strategic partnerships that we work with other companies, more kind of in a distributor's relationship. We've done some acquisitions, again, to try and offset some of those, if we think of part of our business as cyclical in any way. So really, it's the mindset. We are going to grow. We're going to grow a lot. We're going to be very very deliberate in that. And rather than being, the economy's down, or the weather's bad, or this delivery didn't happen, those aren't even options for us.
So I'm going to take it back. I agree 100% with Ryan. I like sustainability because sustainability also means scalability. I've seen so many companies start with three-person sales teams. We have a 5, a 10-year goal. At some point, if you don't have a good, solid sales process, sales tools, sales management plan in place, at some point in there, you get to 6 people, it's going to break down. And I'm not only talking about sales, I'm talking about the sales support and everything behind it. A lot of times I get clients and I'm like, that's a great goal, but if we set this goal and we attain this, can you actually deliver that much product? Do you have everything ready to be able to support that? We want to double in 2 years. That's great. Can you build it? If we build it, if we sell it, can you build it? It's a little bit backwards from that movie. But you have to have sustainability. You have to have solid processes for scalability, and that applies to all parts of the business.
Thank you. I mean, everybody had a similar message, right? A little bit different spin, but I think if you summarize, Brad, it starts with your mindset. We see it all the time, that if you're not unconditionally committed to growth, you won't get the growth. So as the leaders in your company, you've got to have that commitment. You have to understand what your long-term plan is. So if you think about it, do you have a 3 to 5 year plan? Are you establishing goals? Do you know from Brad's perspective and everybody's perspective what it's going to take to get there? Do you have the targets defined? Is it acquisition? Is it organic growth? What are you doing? If those things aren't in place, how can you predict it? How does it become truly sustainable? Next question. Yes.
Jim Honey, Maxim also. We're seeing more and more clients that are going away from a
I think someone on the panel said, we own this account. Oh boy, that is the most dangerous mindset you can ever have. Those people are your most valuable customers. Now, you know, in this world, what happens more often than not is they don't change their mindset, they get bought. Or someone else comes in, and that changes the whole dynamic of the purchasing. Look at InBev with Anheuser-Busch. If anybody's dealt with Anheuser-Busch, they were my greatest customer for years. InBev buys them, and the entire conversation changed overnight. I survived it, thank goodness, but it was difficult for a time because purchasing had all the power, and all of a sudden it was price. We took care of it. But you've got to stay in touch with that customer. You can't get lazy about dealing with that customer. You still have to, you really, in my opinion, I focus more on those people. You know, one of the things we do is we look at the old 80-20 rule. Who's giving you 80%? The 20% of the customer is giving you 80% of your revenue. Don't you think you ought to focus on those guys instead of trying to focus on the, hey, we got to go get that shiny object over there because they're going to add 0.5% to our revenue. Let's spend 80% of our money trying to get that person. You know, so that's it. It's all about strategy and tactics and what you want to do. You have to have the whole company aligned around that. So it starts at the top. But that's my take on that.
So the sole sourcing is kind of an interesting thought. We want to be the sole source when we sell, right? And when we buy from our vendors, we want to have multiple sources so we can keep some. However, we really, as an organization, put a lot of effort into really establishing those relationships. Kind of go back to what Mark said, that 80-20. If we think about on the buying side, the business. You know, where we are, the most important components, our A items, whatever, we want a single source because we want our engineers and that relationship to be super duper tight. So on that end, we're doing good. On our same thing on our sales side, there are certain customers who we want to own, that we want to call our marquee accounts, and we'll do, you know, anything for them, and we do anything for them. So we spend an awful lot of time in front of them, working with them, when their charity events or whatever, getting our engineers there, we go do some training, we spend an awful lot of time. We want to be their sole source for those, you know, we put in a lot of extra effort. There's a lot of our customers who are way down on the value chain, who are smaller, less important to our profitability, who we just, you know, we know we're one of many or one of a, you know, one or two. And you know, we still support them, but we might not give them the same level of support. So we're a lot more on the phone, or we'll do it over email or video conference or something like that. So it's kind of if we are your sole provider, you get the world from us. If we're not your sole provider, still get a super great product, delivered on time, but we're not giving you a lot of extra effort or extra attention.
I don't want a customer to be 100% reliant on me. It's too much pressure. I truly, and my industry has gotten to the point where even my customers' customers are demanding multiple suppliers just for business continuity reasons. So I think that we're shifting away from that as well in my industry.
So I think that's a complicated question, and I think it probably has a complicated answer. Because I've been thinking about it as I was talking, and I'm actually thinking about how Sarah Kinney, who's our CEO, answer this question. And I think the answer probably really relies on the idea that you're not treating that as an event, but you're treating that as your overall strategy. In other words, you know, the thing is that you have to be looking at the entire market that way, not just a customer, and you have to really be focusing on pre-sales effort, which is marketing operations, and how are you basically working to build a bridge to that entire subset of customers. But then I think another thing that you have to look at is the principle of customer success and customer advocacy, meaning that within your existing base of customers, how are you making those customers not satisfied, but successful? And if you're making those customers successful, then those customers are out basically promoting. And that's the whole principle behind customer success versus customer satisfaction. Sorry, train of thought. And so in the principle of customer success, you're actually looking for your existing customers to basically promote, which also happens to drive down your cost of sales, by the way, among other factors. But I think the big thing out of that is not just looking at it as a customer or an event, but really a full marketing and sales operations, or as we call it, revenue operations strategy, looking at lead generation, sales conversion, and then the customer advocacy piece.
Thank you. You know, the other side of it, I think, too, if we summarize it all again, is how aligned are you to the people in the decision process that are buying your products? And how well do you know what their requirements are, what their needs are, what their pains are, and how well you strategically align into it? And I think to your point, Ryan, and everybody, if you don't know who the customer is, and there's multiple people inside of a lot of your clients, and what they're going to buy and what's motivating them and what their expectations are, you're misaligned to start, which means you'll end up in the procurement process, right? And nobody likes to be there. It's very difficult to sell value in the procurement model. Next question. Yes.
I'd like to hear how the panelists align and ensure alignment between sales departments and marketing departments.
Do you have a year?
Yes.
So I'm going to jump all onto this one because we were just having a conversation about this. So I think one of the big principles that's out there is the principle of matrix management, right? And so you have people that are reporting dually to the marketing and sales function. But I think when I mention that word as that term to so many people, I always kind of get, which is like, it's like they understand that it should work, but for some reason it doesn't work. And I think that the reason that it doesn't work is because there's basically a premise that, in terms of what the marketing department is or what the sales department is, and what it's supposed to be doing. So marketing is focusing on logos, buzz, branding, those things. And salespeople are about focusing on, on meetings and, how to close deals. And then the customer service department is focused on customer satisfaction. Whereas I would encourage everybody to look at it through a different lens. It's not looking at what the departments are, but what is it that the departments are supposed to be accomplishing? And I would submit to you, in the new model, to what Susie was just talking about, is that your marketing department is now responsible for sales conversion. Your marketing department is now responsible for customer advocacy. Your marketing department is now responsible for lead generation. Oh, and by the way, your customer department is now responsible for lead generation. Your customer department is now responsible for sales conversion. And so I can see some quizzical looks, in that, but at the point that you're making the accountability for all departments the same, now you have natural alignment of goals. And that when you have natural alignment of goals, now your marketing department isn't just thinking about buzz, they're not just thinking about branding, they're thinking about how do we help support across the entire revenue function the production of profitable revenue.
Yes, I agree with that. And to take it one step further, through my years at NEOC, we've changed our organization in marketing and sales in several different ways. But I think one of the ways that I saw it most productive was when sales and marketing was under one umbrella, very specific in their positions, that their roles were to improve the profitability of the company. And looking out, marketing had a longer look, product development, working with R&D and sales to understand what the customer wanted. Sales
So we have a small company. Everybody wears a lot of hats, so it works pretty well for us. Person who's in charge of customer service also has marketing responsibilities. The person who's responsible for sales also has customer service or delivery responsibilities. So because people have multiple hats, they do those jobs pretty well. Our person who's in charge of marketing goes out and talks to customers all the time. So from a sales perspective, so being being a little bit smaller, but having people do all those jobs, they recognize the problem that the sales guy might be having. What is the collateral or the lead generation material that the sales guys need from a marketing side? And same thing on the sales guys understand what's really available, what can we really expect from our marketing team. So, for us, it helps that we're a smaller organization. We've got 20 or 30 people thinking about sales and marketing, and all very, very close physically together. So I think it works out. It's not optimal maybe, but it's working out pretty well.
So that really is a big topic. We hear it a lot, right? And I think the idea is, Carla and Brad are going to speak to this, probably have a marketing strategy, and pretty likely they have a sales strategy. You can't align what you don't know. And that's often where the problem starts. So that's kind of a gut check. Do you have those things in place so that you can even look to how to align it? Next question.
Good morning. I was curious, and Brad mentioned, I'd like to hear from the panel how they utilize social media, and also how you measure that.
Good question.
So we have a guy, right, who is our social media person, honestly, he used to be in the news business, and it works out incredible. The pace of news and news generation and all that business is very similar to the pace of social media. That things get, you push something out very, very frequently. There's deadlines and things change very rapidly. And the thing that's great about we use Twitter, we have blogs, we have Facebook, we have our website, and we have Instagram. But all of those things, they send you a report, or I don't know what they send, but you can get reports on a very, very, very frequent basis. We push out a new blog thing, and you can see the number of people who visited and who clicked through. Same thing on some advertising that might go through Instagram or Facebook or whatever. You can see very, very quickly, and how quickly it's over. It goes out, it gets a bunch of hits that day, maybe a few more the next day, trickles off, but a week later it is completely over. And so I think being able to use our social media expert who was in the news business, who recognizes that things have to be talked about every single day, has really, really helped us. And then he's a numbers guy, honestly. So he will send us reports on the post went out today, it got 3,000 hits, 3 of them went through. We don't sell that way, but we were able to turn them into leads. So I think the metrics that are associated with all of those outlets are very easily accessible, and that's what we just use.
We don't do social media. We're business to business, yes.
So the one thing I remember about Johnny Carson was his penchant for having guest hosts on his program, and so that's immediately popping into my mind. And so we are fortunate here today to have one of the top digital operations experts in the country, and so Steph, come on up. Steph is I'll take my
content and I'm using that as a lead generation tool. I want you to download this white paper. I want you to send us a contact request. I want you to do something. I can track that all the way through Google Analytics by the source. So I might say that I'm going to use social media, but then I might find that organic search is the one that actually gives me conversions. I might find that referral traffic from one of my partners, that's what sends me conversions so that you can make more informed decisions. Just because someone told you social media is a big thing and there's a billion users on Facebook, doesn't mean it actually works for your business or that you have the resources to invest your time there. I want you to spend your time where it actually works. So as much as I love social media, I am also the person that's going to tell you don't do that. So always track conversions. You can set that up for free through Google Analytics. If you're not setting up conversions, then you're not using it correctly. We're here to do business and increase sales. If you're not tracking that and then tracking it all the way through the funnel, from conversion of the lead to the actual sales conversion, and talking to the sales team and going, how did that lead turn out? You know, we got a bunch of lead conversions from organic search, but the few we got from Facebook were the only ones that actually converted. That tells me a different story. So we're tracking all the way through.
I think we should give Steph a hand.
Just to add to that, you know, I'm the sales management guy, so I always go to tactical. How do we do this? So one thing you see, you absolutely have to use social media, depending on your business. Like at MMC, I get that. It's a different scale, different type of customer. But 90% of the 95% of the companies out there need social media as a lead gen tool. As Susie said earlier, 60% of people do research online and other forums before they ever engage a company for sales. So that's important, and guess where they go? Social media is one of those big things, web. So those are the tools that you absolutely have to pay attention to. One thing I caution a lot of clients, okay, now you're doing that, you're spending all this money, and you've got Google Ads, and you're seeing this, you're seeing that. Be sure you've got that solid process after that to make sure you can convert that customer. Because at some point, not all businesses, but most B2B businesses need a salesperson to make a contact to close that sale and to institute the sales process that Ryan talked about. So I always caution about that. You put all your hopes in social media, it's a great tool, but you still got to do the old school selling at some point, depending on the business. But I mean, most of the B2B people that I work with, that's the case.
Thank you. And again, quick summary, know what your customer wants to know about you. If they're going to research you, right, big chunk of their work is done before they engage. What do you want them to know? Because I think we're posting a lot of stuff out there that it may not be really relevant to that customer or that prospect, but we're not spending enough time to understand what that needs to look like. Next question.
So I actually want to piggyback off what we've been talking about. There's been a lot of talk about growth, operations, and even social media, and how sales has changed in the past 30 years. I guess what strategies or tactics have you guys noticed in that change that have worked best to get you to that growth? Is it the launch of social media that has really helped get you there? What have you seen in today's market that has really made it successful?
Great question, Judy. Thanks. A couple of things. I started selling back in the golden days of sales 30-something years ago, so I kind of lived through this. The sales cycle and the information flow is so much faster today, and it can spin out of control so easily. You really have to be disciplined in how you engage with your customer, make sure that you understand what their needs are, understand your market. And I think when they get to that point, after they do their 60% of research, they're looking for a trusted advisor. Or if you can get to that point with your customer, if you can be the expert, if you can have that domain knowledge, or you can bring value to the customer, in addition to, yes, they've done all the research, they see you as a valid company, but you come in and you bring a different approach or a different aspect. You know, I'm not selling a product, I'm selling a solution, I'm selling to your needs. And if you really know what those are, that really will propel your growth. And it's kind of the old school stuff. I'm kind of an old school guy, but that still does work. But you just have to understand how that fits in the sales cycle as it is today.
I guess I would maybe say, if I had to boil it down to one simple thing, is organizing the messaging. And the thing is, I think a lot lot of companies basically put their messaging as a one-size-fits all. You have to know who your audience is, who is your customer, certainly. But, a message will resonate differently at different stages of the sales cycle. And, maybe to illustrate this, as I'll talk about dating, is if you go on a date and you're sitting there across the table, you're having a great date, you're getting along, just fine, and then all of a sudden you're like, this is just such a great date, and and it's like, yeah, I agree. It's because we have so many common interests, we have let's get married. Okay, that's probably not going to resonate quite so well the first date, as it might, 8 months later, when you actually got to spend some time. Now it's the same exact message, right? But it's at a different stage of the sales process, so that message, resonates, typically, hopefully, much better. And it's the same thing for, what you're doing with your customer, with your products and services, is the message that's going out to your customer at the initial stages of engaging in the sales process is going to be different from the end. And getting that message organized is, for the companies that do it really, really well, they're going to get an outsized result.
I would say that the trusted, what is the thing that made the biggest difference in the last 30 years? It's that focus on the trusted advisor, but all the different ways you can deliver the message of I am that person. So some of it might be face-to-face, like back in the day, but it might be a video call, it might be something that's on your website, it might be some white papers, it might be the blog site. But all of that information, kind of like Ryan said, all of that information, depending on where the person is helping develop that trusted advisor status. And I think that happens much quicker. People make their decisions a lot faster than they used to. And part of it's because they have a lot more information at hand that can help make that. And so kind of aligning all that information to be that advisor and having that consistent message over time has been the biggest key in the last certainly 10 years. I don't know about 30 years, but 10 years to help make growth occur quicker.
Thank you. And maybe it's also if everybody listens. You can't really be a trusted advisor if you're not listening to your customers. So, got to check on you and your salespeople as well. Another question.
So in your organization, what does it take to be an effective business developer or salesperson?
Was the question in your business, what does it take to be a good business developer or salesperson?
Correct.
Thanks, Chris.
So I have this endless fascination that companies will spend thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars on their brand, their messaging, their statements, their features, their benefits. And then they get to the most fundamental aspect of sales, which is questions, and then they just wing it. We're just going to show up there, ask them a few questions, and then we're going to be fine. Then we can really get back down to what we really want to communicate, which is the statements. But the fundamental aspect of sales is trust. And you can't. The customer is not going to trust you unless they feel that you understand them. Even you can have a good relationship with them, and that's very important. But if they don't trust you, and they typically don't trust you because they don't feel like they understand your business, or you don't understand their business, then that's where the foundation of sales problems occurs. But it's just time and time again where, with salespeople is whenever I uncover deficiencies where coaching and development is needed, it's always around the questions that are being asked. It's not necessarily around the statements.
I think that the salespeople need to know what the boundaries are. So on top of the trust, which I 100% believe in, because if you don't have trust, you really have nothing in this customer relationship. The salesperson is the voice of the customer. the customer is counting on sales to enable their needs inside the factories, inside the company. But we, as a management team, have to give the sales team the tools that they need to enable them, which means good communications, like helping them know what they need to communicate, to tailor those communications. If they don't have the skills, we help them go get the communication skills. I mean, there's all kinds of sales improvement trainings. But we believe that sales is integral to the whole company's performance, and that relationship with the customer is key.
I think there's two things. For us, I know that our customers don't switch. They don't go from our competitor's product to our product unless we are in front of them. So a sales guy, to be successful, actually has to be in front of the decision maker. A lot of repeat orders and all that can handle on the phone, but there's a certain level of just kind of being in front of a person I think is really, really valuable. In our industry, we're very old school in a lot of ways, and certainly that face-to-face connection is the first step in being successful. And then the second thing for our sales guys to be successful is that they don't talk very much. They just listen, and they ask the right questions. They let that customer express what their frustrations are with our products, or their competitors' products, or the industry. Or, they do an awful lot of listening. And for a sales guy, it's kind of counterintuitive, or historically has been, that they aren't kind of a talker. They're out there talking about the latest football game or whatever. But that relationship, when it starts getting down to being successful in the business, means that they have to do an awful lot of listening about the business. And then they could go on and talk about the football games and all that kind of stuff over lunch. But the key is to really, really, really listen to what the customer says. So get in front of them, and then don't say very much.
I agree with everything the panel said. The only thing I would add is let's take it one step back. To make sure the salesperson is going to be successful in their role, make sure that person is built for that role. If you're looking for business development, somebody to go out and hunt new business, you don't want to get a farmer, a zookeeper, whatever, an account manager, somebody that's totally uncomfortable going out and making the cold calls and doing everything it takes. Make sure you put the right people in the right seats for sales, because there are different roles and different functions and different personalities you need to make sure to fit. So if you put the wrong person in the wrong seat, it doesn't matter what your processes and everything else in the back end is like, they're going to fail.
Yeah, the wrong person in the seat doesn't work, does it? Making sure you also have metrics, right? I think everybody up here, if you haven't defined how many times you need somebody in front of a customer to get to the goal you're looking for, you really haven't defined part of the recipe of success. Yes?
So most manufacturers have multiple distribution channels. Inside sales, maybe their own outside sales force, manufacturers, rep, distributors, e-commerce. Could you talk about how you handle channel conflict? Because sooner or later it arises.
Well, that's a fiber discussion.
We talked earlier about everybody thinks they own the customer, right? So as soon as you sell something through two channels, there's conflict. It always comes down to who did the work from our perspective. So and then if somebody's done some work, if there's a distributor who has done an awful lot of work with that end user and has pitched our product, but then they went and called and they wanted to go direct, or they wanted to get something online. Or what happens an awful lot of times now is that the distributor does a lot of work and then it goes through Amazon or Rock Auto or some of those online channels. We do give that distributor in that geographic sense a piece of a commission. Now they don't get their whole. Distributor says, "Oh, I need my 20 points, I need my 25 or whatever." We're not giving them that. They couldn't close the sale from our perspective, right? They couldn't get it done. So they might have been over there, they might have talked a lot, whatever, but the most important part, actually getting the sale, didn't happen. So, and we also do we try, it's really, really hard, but to keep kind of a level playing field from a pricing perspective. One of our biggest challenges is some distributors, work on 3 points, some distributors work on 25 points, and the three-point guys have a great marketing team. So the low, they get a lot of business, and that always just causes some angst. So I guess, how do we manage it? Because there's not as much conflict as there are people who just want to go in that channel. So there are people who just want to go online. Like, they don't want to talk to any distributors. So that's the way they do, And so that's what we've seen is, while there's some overlap, there's way, way, way more people who just use that channel exclusively. And so they might use distribution, they might use some e-commerce site, they might, the people who tend to, and we have a really big West Coast business. Those guys are, just because they're geographically, the time zones are different, they use a lot of e-commerce because I need to make an order, and our customer service is shut down for the day. So we found, while there is a bit of overlap, and we try to make everybody feel comfortable about that, if there is, and we find out about it, what we found though really is that there are people, the customers who just want to go one avenue or another.
Thanks, Brad. We are close to time. In fact, I think we're about 8:50 tonight, and we like to be on time. Just a quick on that channel selling. Simple question. Are you managing your channel, or is your channel managing you? You can manage your channel, but if you don't have a